Government of India and many academic institutions. So he is luminary in this field, and he has presented many papers in national and international journals. He has published.
Go ahead.
So he has presented many papers in national and international seminars. His research article has been published in reputed journals and Proceeding of History. He has co-edited a volume of essay titled Steaming the Past, Peninsular India in History. And he authored a book, Coromandel Trade in Early South India, an Archaeological Perspective, with a special reference to Tamil Nadu up to circa 12th century AD. Today, we are fortunate to have Dr. Vikas Verma, sir, share his expertise with us on the topic revisiting ancient India and Southeast Asia and archaeological perspective. So without further ado, please join me in giving warm and enthusiastic welcome to Dr. Vikas Verma, sir. Welcome, sir.
Thank you, Priyanka ji, for your kind words. And I think the best address would be that I am a teacher, and that would be the best thing to be told. But then, yes, today I am going to speak on the ancient relation between Southeast Asia and India. And I will share my screen first, and then I will start.
It's been enabled. If you want to try again, please.
I think it's visible to all of you.
Yes, sir.
This, okay. So here actually the topic is very clear. I would like to start from this thing. My focus is on trade, but see, trade and commerce has been very important vehicle for not only economic contact, but we find that even cultural contact, exchange of ideas at different level. So I will not be speaking only in the context of trade as means for economic interaction, but also that how Buddhism or Hinduism or our cultural traits that reach South India. And my focus will be on archaeological sources, because in limited time I cannot cover scholars like R.C. Majumdar. They have done a tremendous work in the area, and there is a lot to be talked about. But then I will be talking in the light of recent archaeological excavation or recent archaeological findings, which highlight about the contact between these two regions. And then we will also see that exchange of diverse ideas between these regions, and that also help us develop contact with other countries like Sri Lanka or even India. If you would geographically see, India acted as a mid station, because Roman trade was earliest to pick up, and Roman traders could reach Southeast Asia because we have found rolleted ware and other kind of ceramics in Sri Lanka and many countries of today's Southeast Asia. So Roman trade was already there, but Southeast Asian trade comes to light after the ports on the east coast of our country, east coast of India, they developed. And that we will see. We will see the different stages of trade, how it developed from or how it shifted from the west coast to east coast of India. So to begin with, as I said, the first, my first task will be to discuss about the shift of trade. As I mentioned earlier, that first the trade started from the west coast of India, because it was very likely that traders from the Mediterranean world or Persian Gulf, and even otherwise, if we go back to Harappan period, we find that our contact with Mesopotamia and Persian Gulf, that was very much there. And since then, we were well connected with the Western world, or you can say Mediterranean region or the African region. So there was one very important thing which happened in the first century AD and first century CE, and which changed the whole course of trade. Traders could reach the Tamil region. Tamil region, when I am saying Tamil region, in ancient times, then I am meaning the present day states of Kerala and Tamil Nadu both. When we talk of Tamilgam or when we talk of the Sangam period, we talk of these two present day states, Tamil Nadu and Kerala. So the traders could easily reach Kerala coast, but then to come to the east coast was a very difficult task. So the main route that was followed, that was Palghat Pass, Palghat Gap. Till today, until the Konkan Railway was constructed, and even today also, the rail route that passes through the Palghat Pass, if we want to go from Tamil Nadu to Kerala or vice versa. Now only recently, this Konkan coast has been linked by this Konkan Railway, and that makes our journey very easier or shorter. So that was the route. The route was the Palghat Pass. If there was no Palghat Pass, that means the history could have been different. The traders had no other way. But then they could have taken the sea route through Kanyakumari or through Cape Comorin, but they were afraid. Why they were afraid? Because they did not have the knowledge of the wind. So the discovery of the monsoon in 1st century CE, that was a landmark. So that led to, once they got the knowledge of this wind, the flow of wind in the particular month of the southwest monsoon, then it was very easy for them to plan their journey in particular month. And so there was no shipwreck, or they did not fear traveling through that way. So that was very important reason for the shift of trade from the east coast to from the west coast to east coast of India after the 1st century CE. So that's the first thing. Second important thing, and that brought us closer to the Southeast Asia. So I am just discussing the initial phase, how Southeast Asia becomes very important for the traders and for other purposes. Secondly, we find that the spice trade was very important with the Roman world. So, and we have also learned that, Roman treasury were empty. There was a lot of pressure on the exchequer, and Roman treasury were emptied, and our spices were in huge demand. Now, the Tamil region was not enough to produce or supply how much was in demand. So therefore, they had to look for some other area where they could find this kind of resources, that is spices and other resources. And there Southeast Asia came to their light, and they could, visit, they could, so Southeast Asia also became very important link in the chain of that trade. Third important thing, there were certain other things also, other materials or other commodities also for which Southeast Asia was known, which were rare in China. For example, the gold and tin. Apart from spices, there was alloy called high tin bronze. High tin bronze, I am showing you the next slide, and I'm relating it to the high tin bronze. Southeast Asia also has been referred to as Swarna Bhumi or Swarna Deepa. Now, the common notion is that it was a land of gold, but it was not so. There is no evidence of importing any gold or exporting any gold, or that being very important for gold. But scholars say that, one very simple way of looking at it is that it was the presence of gold in Southeast Asia. But more plausible explanation comes in the form of availability of spices, which I told you just before some time, that spice was a very much in demand, and that was such an important commodity that which was compared to gold. That is one thing, and so that land was referred to as the land of gold, or very important. Secondly, this I mentioned about high tin bronze just now, and high tin bronze also, you see, that looked like that is yellow in color. So yellowish color, that also made them call land of gold. So the high tin bronze, as I said, is very rare in India. Although we had copper, we had tin, but the articles made of high tin bronze, that was much used or much produced in Southeast Asia. So these were the reason why Southeast Asia becomes very important. And then our contact, this is the initial phase when our contact with Southeast Asia takes up. Now, so if we look at the contact with Southeast Asia, if we go to the prehistoric phase, then we would find that 2nd millennium BC, almost about 2000 BC, we find evidence of the mobility of humans between two regions, and we find prehistoric tools in the form of shouldered edges, cord impressed pottery, etc. And even we find so that shows the contact between even the ethnic communities or the groups like communities like Mundas in the northeastern parts and eastern parts of India. So that was very well there. But when I'm talking of the historical period, so first clear evidence comes from 4th century BC. So 4th century BC is the one of the earliest date, or rather earliest date, from an excavated site called Ban Don Tapet in Thailand. And this thing, so we will see that later on, that what all evidence we have found. So this was excavated by Ian C. Glover. I have given the reference also below. Ian C. Glover is very easily found. All PDF and everything is available. His excavation report and many articles on Ban Don Tapet. So this is a very popular site from where we have found the evidence of the contact between India and Southeast Asia, datable to the 4th century BC. Now, one by one, we will discuss about a different kind of evidence, like inscriptions, coins, and other artifacts which reflect about the contact between these two countries in ancient time. Two countries, or yes. So one inscription, if you see the slide, you'll find we have found from Myanmar, Thailand, Vietnam, Cambodia, Malaysia, then Borneo, Java, Bali, that Indonesian island. So everywhere from all these places we have found evidence of epigraphic evidence which reflect about or which attest to the contact between India and Southeast Asia. So let us start with Borneo, because this is one of the earliest inscription. So I am starting from Borneo, and this is called Pottery inscription. Pottery inscription dates to 4th century CE. See, I told you the earliest date is 4th century BC at Ban Don Tapet, but then we are talking of other evidence. But when we talk of inscription, the first inscription that appears in a major way, that comes from Borneo, and this is this is a series of inscription, and this is called Pottery inscription. And it is very interesting to note that this inscription, they refer to certain Sanskrit terms. They are inscribed in Sanskrit, and they refer to terms like yagna, sacrifice. And they also refer to king like Moolavarman. Now this Moolavarman, the title itself reminds us of Indian rulers like Pallava ruler and Narasimhavarman, or even Gupta ruler, later Gupta. So we find, those scholars say that on the basis of the similarities of the script also, because it is Brahmi Sanskrit, but Brahmi, it is also similar to the Grantha script used by Pallava in the contemporary period. So on this basis, it is inferred that Pallava Tamils had already reached there, or there was a great South Indian influence or Tamil influence, or in a general way Indian influence in Southeast Asia, by the Pallava period or during the Pallava period. So this Pottery inscription, that's very important. Next, another inscription we find from Klongthom. This is another very important site in Thailand, and this is again first Tamil inscription. So I was talking about Sanskrit inscription, Pottery inscription. Now it is the first Tamil inscription, and which is also dated to almost the contemporary period, 3rd, 4th century CE. Now this is found in a temple, and this mentioned the Tamil term, and the Tamil term, if you see on the screen, it is Perum Patankal. Perum is big. In Tamil, Perum means big, and Patan, Kal. Kal means stone, and Perum Patan. So Perum Patan is the name of the goldsmith. The goldsmith who was the senior goldsmith, or who was the head goldsmith, and who was the leader among goldsmiths. So it is referring to that goldsmith, and then that particular touchstone that belonged to that goldsmith. So this Tamil Brahmin inscription now clearly shows about the contact between the South India, especially the Tamil region, because we are talking of Tamil Brahmi region. So that was again the Pallava period. This is very important, and this has been studied. This inscription is very very popular. So it has been like in 1990s itself. Even before that, it was discussed about, but in 1990s, lot of studies on this inscription has happened. Then we find in Champa there is another very important inscription, that is again 3rd century CE, dated to almost the same period, 3rd century, 4th century. This is 3rd century CE. Vo Khan inscription in Vietnam, and here we find that again the Vedic rituals, the mention of Vedic rituals, and then there is another ruler. We saw the ruler in Pottery inscription. He was Moolavarman, and here there is another ruler, and he is called Bhadravarman. So again, the title Varman, the suffix Varman, is appearing again and again in the inscription of Southeast Asia. Now, these records are also very similar to one Pallava. The suffix very much reminds us of the Pallava title. but the characters of the record, that is very similar to the Vakataka inscription. So Vakataka inscription, and as well as we have seen Kota inscription. So Vakataka, that brings us very near to the Gupta and Vakatakas in central India, present the Chhattisgarh and Madhya Pradesh region. So not only South India, but we find that the central India or northern part of India, that was also having a great influence in Southeast Asia. Then in Myanmar also we have inscription that is datable to 5th, 6th century CE, and we have the earliest epigraph in that particular region, Myanmar, and that also has some characters which reflect about the Buddhist tombs. So on this basis, scholars say that, and this is again similar to the South Indian characters. So scholars say that again this is the period of same Pallava period, and Pallava period Kanchipuram was a great Buddhist center. So scholars believe that this Pallava, again the Buddhist influence very much reached there in the 5th, 6th century CE. Then in Thailand, we find another very famous inscription. I think we might have gone through it times again. This is one of the most famous inscription, which is repeated times again, Takuapa. And Takuapa is K.N. Sastry, Nilakant Sastry wrote about it well way back in 1940s, 50s. So this is not something very new, but Takuapa, but it had been studied again and again with different perspectives. So this is a merchant guild inscription. Takuapa, let me tell you, scholars have examined the sources, and Takuapa is taken as the greatest port on the Southeast Asian coast. So Takuapa was the largest port. Whoever went from here, the traders or monks, they landed at Takuapa. So Takuapa is very famous, port center. Now this is in Thailand. This is again at the same Kuan Lukpat, that center from where we saw another inscription was found. So this inscription talks about merchant guilds. This inscription talks about merchant guild, and again 8th, 9th century CE, and the Southeast Asian merchant guild also reminds us about the Pallava period. Now let us talk the inscriptions in India, the epigraphs in India. So we find that in later periods, which followed Chola period, which followed Pallava period, that is Chola in South India, in Tamil area, there we find a series of inscriptions datable to 1005 CE, and that refers to the construction of a vihara or monastery, and this was called Chudamani Varam Vihara at Nagapattinam. And we all know, we might have gone through it many a time, that this was built by the Shailendra king of Sri Vijaya. So the Shailendra king of Sri Vijaya built a monastery at Nagapattinam, and which is recorded in a Chola inscription. So again, we also have come to know that Shailendra has a relation with the Roman world. So now this also highlights the fact that India played a very important role connecting the Roman world and Southeast Asia. So this is Chola. So we have seen early period, we have seen in South India Pallava period, and then we have seen the Chola period inscription of that. And then it is another interesting inscription, the group series of inscription that comes from Indonesia. And here again we find that there is mention of terms. There are mention of terms which refer to foreign merchants like Banyaga. Now in Indian inscription, we have seen the terms like Sreshti for guild, then Chettis in South India, and similarly in North India we have Banijas, and from which the word Banya is derived in modern times. So this Banya is referred to in the inscription in Indonesia, and furthermore we also find reference to the regions, like regions and races, or the group of people like Kalingas, Aryas, Sinhalese, Dravidians. So all these terms are there, and about the merchant guild Banigrama. So these are from the inscriptions in Indonesia. Then in East Java we have Kaladi inscription, and which again tells us about same terms as I mentioned before: Kalingas, Aryas, Sinhalese, Dravidians. So these communities are mentioned in many inscriptions of different parts in Southeast Asia. So this is about inscription. Now the next thing, I would discuss is about the ceramics, the potteries. And as I mentioned earlier, that related pottery, the Roman potteries were found in large number at Indian sites in Sri Lanka and also in Southeast Asia. So that says a lot about the Indo-Roman contact, and then finally the extending our links to Southeast Asia and Sri Lanka, and further to China also. Now, pottery related websites, I have mentioned some famous related websites in Tamil Nadu, Arikamedu, Appakallu, Alaganpulam, Kanchipuram, Karaikadu, Rayur, and so on and so forth, Kaveri Pattanam, so on. Now, in Southeast Asia, this particular kind of pottery has been found in a good number from, Kobak Kandal in Java, then Sembiran in Bali, Tra Keu and Gokam in Vietnam, Palembang in Sumatra, and then Bukit Tenggu Lembu in Malaysia. So we find the similarities between the potteries found at both the places. And I have mentioned the sources, the studies by different scholars like Walker and Santoso, Sarma, Suresh and all, Glover. They have studied the pottery and found the similarities. So that very much establishes the contact between South India and Southeast Asia. Related ware have also been found in Sri Lanka, and then we can trace the route from Southeast Asia to Sri Lanka, and then finally to India. So in Sri Lanka, like Anuradhapura excavation has yielded the related ware in large number. Yes. Now Chinese porcelain and Celadon. Chinese porcelain and Celadon ware, these are two important kind of Chinese pottery which are good indicator of trade contact. Now there is some interesting facts regarding this. In India, although our contact with China is very old, right from 1st century CE, when we find Kashyap Matang and Dharmraksha, they went to China, and how Buddhism went there, it interacted with Taoism and Confucianism and all that. So that was 1st century CE, but that went through, land route. Sea route was very less used. We find that even the early travelers like Fahian, Wensang, and these people, they follow the land route. But while going back, they take the sea route either from Tamlipta or other port. So, sea route. So it is very interesting that although our contact with China is quite old, that dates back to the 1st century CE, but we find Chinese pottery, the entry of Chinese pottery very late in India. And that comes, so you see the slide, I have mentioned there are two important phases of the entry of Chinese pottery. So that means Chinese pottery arrived in India in two distinct waves. And first is datable to the period between 9th to 13th century CE, and another 14th to 7th century CE. So although, as I said, Chinese contact is quite old, but Chinese pottery is coming very late. Now, there is certain reason what scholars believe that why did it reach so late. So studies have been made by scholars like Noboru Karashima, Kanazawa, and others. And what is found is, so these are the important, I will tell you why it is, but these are important, Chinese porcelain, which have been found from Tamil Nadu side in Ramanathapuram district. Again, now, so why they reached very late? As I said, that they reached in two waves, 9 to 13th and then 14 to 17. So here I have mentioned about the excavation at Mantai in Sri Lanka also. And there also you find the Chinese ceramics dates to 8th to 11th century CE. Now, why did they reach late? Because it is believed that this relates very much to the concept of purity and pollution. Purity and pollution, I think I have mentioned it earlier. Okay, maybe later on I have mentioned, but I will tell you now. So why this Chinese pottery comes to India in late stage, although we had earlier relation with China. So the scholars say that it was the concept of purity and pollution, because the Indians, Buddhism, so it comes to Sri Lanka at an earlier stage, but it comes to India at a later stage. So the reason for this is that Buddhism was already very popular in Sri Lanka since ancient times, and therefore the food habit, because Buddhists, they did not care about this. They did not believe in pollution, the concept of pollution. They could eat in all kind of potteries and all. Whereas the Hinduism, that was not that we can say accommodative, or that did not believe that believed in the concept of pollution. So therefore, the Chinese potteries were not that favored. They were not favored by the Indians, and so they did not like the Chinese pottery to arrive in India. That was one explanation which is given by scholar. Although the issue needs further research. Now we will come to coins. So we have seen the epigraphs, we have seen the potteries, and now we will come to coins. So coins also have been found in a large number and from different places. And many of the coins found in Southeast Asia, they contain the religious symbols like Sri Vatsa, which is associated with Vishnu. So we find the symbols like Sri Vatsa, and the coins discovered in Vietnam, Myanmar, Thailand, and other regions clearly show this. Then we also have, like coins which have the similar standards, that is similar weight and similar type of shape. They are found at different places, though it is said that the coinage system in Southeast Asia, that originated because of the Indian influence. That means the influence of Indian coinage system on the local coinage of early Southeast Asia is very much seen from these studies. Now, Roman coins have also been found. As we know that Roman trade was very much there, and potteries, we have found potteries. So similarly, coins also have been found. And like Yu Thong, we find the coin of Roman Emperor Victorinus dated to 3rd century CE. Now, Indian coins, in the context of Indian coins, we find that there is an ancient port of Huan Lukpat. Like we discussed about a port that is Takuapa, there is another port, Huan Lukpat, which was another important port in ancient time. And there we find coins datable to circa 2nd century CE, and that depicts a double-masted ship. Now, double-masted ship reminds us again of the Pallava coins, where we have coins issued by Sri Satkarni, Yagna Satkarni, and there we find the coins of Satavahana coins with double-masted ship, and we popularly call it as ship type coins or ship motif coins. So even if we Google ship motif coins of Satavahana, we will find beautiful images. So again, we were talking about the Pallava, Pallava influence. Now we also come to know about the Satavahana influence in Southeast Asia. So the coins take us even prior to what we have seen in the light of inscription. We have seen inscription talks about, they reflect about 4th century, 3rd century, 4th century CE, but coins take us even prior to that. And we find coins datable to 2nd century CE, and with similar features as we find in Indian coins, they are very much found there. Then again, in that same context, we come to when we talk of Sangam period and Pallava period, then we find 2 copper coins of Tamil origin have been found again at Huan Lukpat. And the first coin is very much identified as the Sangam Chola coin, because it has the insignia, it has the emblem which is very much similar, or which is equivalent to those used by the Sangam Chola. Second coins again is taken to be the Pallava coin, because it is again double-masted ship on reverse and the royal bull symbol. So double-masted ship is Satavahana also, as we saw in the earlier case, but here it is double-masted ship because Tamil people also were great seafarers, great traders. And we find the royal bull. Now this royal bull was the symbol of the Pallavas. So the Cholas, we had tiger, for Cheras we had bows and arrows, like that. So we had for Pallava, we had the royal bull as their symbol. So that is very much depicted on the second coin. So this is taken to be the Pallava coin. Now, so this is Pallava influence. Again, we find that when we talk of 6th century kingdom of Dwaravati, which is again in Thailand of Southeast Asia, and there we find that a lot of numismatic evidence. Like we have many uninscribed silver coins. They are not inscribed, but we have depiction of symbols like conches and temple-like structures. Conches. So Shankha and temple-like structure, they are very much depicted there, and they date to around 6th century CE, and they are found in Thailand. Then when we come back to India, as we saw in the case of Nagapattinam, we saw that a Vihara was constructed by the Shailendra king of Srivijaya. Here again at Nagapattinam, because Nagapattinam emerged as a very important port during Pallava period. So there we find some of the coins and which are of Chinese origin, and they are called they are kept in museum. They are very limited in number, and they are called China Kanakam. So China means the China, and Kanakam means gold. Kanak means gold. So this category of coins are called China Kanakam, and which are kept in the museum in Tamil Nadu, and so that also establishes the contact between Southeast Asia, because they all arrived through the sea route, maritime route. Now, yes, a number of sources now. So therefore, we find that these coins, reflect about the contact between Srivijaya Kingdom and South India in the contemporary period. And then we also have, coins of Roman origin, Roman coins in Bangladesh. So Bangladesh also had, coins of Roman origin. So Roman trade, we have already seen that Roman trade was very much there, the coins of Victorinus. But now in Sri Lanka, it is very interesting to note that the coins with swastik symbol, which have been found at Karur in Tamil Nadu, and similar rectangle, these are plaques. So plaques have been found in Sri Lanka and Bangladesh. So the plaques with swastik symbol have been found in Sri Lanka and Bangladesh, and which bear resemblance to those found at Karur in Tamil Nadu. So this is another point of this similarity. Then we also find in Bangladesh the Paharpur, that is a great excavated site, Paharpur monastery, Buddhist monastery at Paharpur, and there again we have many copper coins, and which are of Sri Lankan origin. So that shows the contact between Sri Lanka and Bangladesh. So that was certainly South India. So Bangladesh was linked with the Arakan coast, and traders from South India could reach Bangladesh from Tamlipta, either through the sea route or through the land route via northeast. So Arakan coast was also connected. So these evidences clearly show our contact. So all this region, either it is Sri Lanka or Southeast Asia, South India or Eastern India, they were well connected through land route till wherever it was possible, through Bangladesh and through Myanmar, or through the sea route. Now, another very important evidence, a type of evidence, is beads. Now, beads are, although many people count it as minor antiquities, but beads, as a student of history and archaeologist, beads are just like ceramics. They are very important indicator of trade or contact. And there has been a lot of very detailed studies on beads, like scholars like Peter Francis. They have worked on the beads of Arikamedu and Robin Cunningham, many, to name a few. Now, so site of Krong Thong, which I mentioned just before some time, is also known as the bead mount, because thousands of beads have been discovered from there, both made of glass and semi-precious. Now, these beads bear similarities to those found at Arikamedu. And let me tell you, Arikamedu also, you just Google and find out. And if you go to Arikamedu Museum, the first thing which you see in Pondicherry, Arikamedu Museum, Pondicherry Museum, first thing you will see, it is such a famous center for bead that Peter Francis has worked and found out the process of making beads, the different stages, and they have put a model. So as you enter the museum, Pondicherry Museum, the first thing you will find on the left-hand side is that the model of that means bead making. It was such an important bead making center, and lots and lots of beads have been found, which are kept in all the museums of Tamil Nadu, even National Museum of Delhi. So it was an important bead making center, Arikamedu. So the beads similar to Arikamedu have been found in Klong Thom in Thailand, and then similarly we find Indian beads of glass and semi-precious stones were also found from Bali, sites like Gilimanuk, and next beads, as I said, that Arikamedu beads were very famous, and Arikamedu exported beads to Rome and also to Southeast Asia and also to Africa. So Arikamedu was such an important bead making center. Now, sources of carnelian, they are very rare in Southeast Asia, and so if you find carnelian bead there, carnelian in India also, carnelian was mostly found in Gujarat region. So even Harappan time, the carnelian beads, they reflect about the contact between Gujarat, like sites of Lothal or other sites of Gujarat. So carnelian, you find that carnelian beads in Southeast Asia, they are very rare. So finding of carnelian beads in Southeast Asia, again, that says a lot about, and that they range from 500 BC to 1500 CE. So it is almost 2000 years. So continuously they are found at all the sites, continuously from 500 BCE to 1500 CE. all the sites of Southeast Asia, in Thailand, Malaysia, Philippines, and Bali, they have yielded beads of different varieties which have similarities to Indian beads. Then we come to metal artifacts, and metal artifacts are another, as in the beginning I mentioned about the land being called as Swarna Bhumi or Swarna Deepa, and I also told you that high-tin bronze was one important commodity which was found in that particular area, and which was yellowish in color, and that is the reason why scholars call it one reason why we say that it was called as the land of gold. Now this thing was not found in India. This thing was very much found in the Southeast Asian region, because from India only at certain sites like Takshila and in Adichannalu in Tamil Nadu, we have found the production of artifacts made of this particular alloy. So high tin was also used in, by Satavahanas. The Satavahanas were first to make the coins. If you remember, Satavahanas were first to make the coins in this lead and pottery. So besides copper and other metal, they also produce coins in lead and pottery. Now, so high tin was also used by the Satavahanas in South India, and this bronze artifacts, as I said, are rare, and they are for this high tin bronze artifacts. I am not meaning bronze. Bronze technology was very much there in India, like bronze dancing girl of Harappa. So I am not saying that the technology was not in India, but what I am trying to say, the high tin bronze artifacts, they have been found in very rarely at site. Now here we find it is very interesting to note the articles made of high tin bronze, which came from Southeast Asia, they reflect the features of Buddhist cosmology, and that we have found. So I will show you some slide, and that is you will yourself see, and it is very much visible that Buddhist ideas were reflected. So the metal or the commodity is found in Southeast Asia. The product is made in Southeast Asia, but the product reflects about Indian features. So what is that? You can yourself see. These are knob-based bronze vessels. These are knob-based bronze vessels, and they have been found at Bandon Tapet. And this is very interesting. I will show you. The next slide will show you the figure. And what that vessel says, that vessel reflect about the world system mandala. Mandal, Hindu, Buddhist, and Jain philosophy. We all talk about mandal, about the whole universe. And the universe, there is a mountain in the center, which is called the Mount Meru, which is in Sumer. In Hinduism, you call it Sumer Parvat or Sumer Mountain. But in Buddhist and Jain cosmology, it is called Mount Meru. So this is the sacred mountain. And this sacred mountain, then again, this is surrounded by concentric circle. This particular bronze vessel is surrounded, you find the design of concentric circle, the circle with same center, and they represent the mountain ranges and ocean that separate the Meru from the Great Rocky Circumference. Now, this you find that the vessel made of high tin bronze, that is made in a way, or that is made in a shape which reflect about the Buddhist cosmology. That is very important thing to be noted. Now, next thing is the concept of Chakravarti. Also, we talk about universal emperor either in the context of Ashoka or the later ruler. So the concept of such concepts are also very much reflected, like Buddha turning the wheel of law, or Ashoka's policy of Dhamma. So all these things, that this particular idea that has already reached Southeast Asia, and that's why they could produce this kind of artifact. So you will find this is the artifacts I was talking about. So if you see, the first is the cross section, and the second is the real artifact. So you will find this bronze vessel. I told you, this is the knob-based bronze vessel from Bandon Tapet. So knob base, knob hai, upar mein knob, which is knob, and base bronze vessel. It is made of bronze. Now you see, this is as I said, Mount Meru or Sumer. That is the central point. That is knob, and then that is surrounded by the concentric circles, and which represent the oceans and mountains that separate the Mount Meru. So this is this knot pair have been found from Bandon Tapet and Khao Sam Keo in Thailand. So this dates back to 4th century BC to 4th century CE. So we are finding such kind of evidence in that broad range, right from 4th century BCE to 4th century CE. So 4th century BCE means Buddhism has already reached Sri Lanka. See, Ashoka, during Ashoka's time only, either through the propagation of Dhamma or sending his son and daughter Mahendra and Sanghmitra to Sri Lanka. So Buddhism had already reached, and then now we find that Southeast Asia was also influenced by Buddhism, as we are finding this kind of evidence. Then Indian beads also we find, as I said, that Buddhism is also reflected in the beads which have been found in Southeast Asia. And one important representation is Shaka Simha. See, before the coming of Mahayana, Buddha was represented as symbol, like through the Bodhi tree or through his feet or other kind of symbolic representation. So Shaka Simha was one very important representation. Like Buddha belonged to the Shakya tribe or Shakya family. So Shaka Simha, so lion among the Shakya. So the lion of the Shakya clan. So Buddha has been represented in the beads as Shaka Simha, and this depiction comes before 1st century CE, because 1st century CE Mahayana comes. So when Mahayana comes, Buddha was depicted as human being, or Buddha, the figure of Buddha, became very popular. So we have Mathura school and Gandhara school and that Amravati school, with many Buddha sculptures. So now you see this is the Shaka Simha. So these beads and pendants you see on the screen, you will see the Shaka Simha image of Buddha, and this kind of beads have been found from many places in Southeast Asia, and this reminds us very much of Buddhism going to the land. Then one by one, I will just now briefly I will talk about the coastal areas like Bengal, Odisha, Andra, and Tamil Nadu. Tamil Nadu we have already seen. We have talked about many evidences either from Arikamedu or other places, Kanchipuram. Now we will come to so I one by one briefly we will cover all these coastal areas on the east coast, because I mentioned in the beginning that east coast the trade shifted to the east coast, and east coast played a very important role. So you find that the ports on the west coast they declined, and moreover later on with the decline of the Roman trade also there was the ports on the east coast they were very important for the trade with Southeast Asia and Eastern region, other countries. So I will mention some important evidence in the context of relation between Bengal and Southeast Asia. The first is the Sanskrit inscription, which we have again here. We find the term 5th century CE, terms like the name like Buddha Gupta. Now Buddha Gupta is the name, and he is mentioned as a Mahanavik. So in the inscription which is found in Malaysia, there is a trader or a head trader, and he is mentioned as Mahanavik, the great captain of the ship, or the captain, and he is called Buddha Gupta. So, and this place is identified. He is said to be coming from the Bengal region. So the place is Rakta Mritika. The place where he belonged to is Rakta Mritika in inscription, and which is identified with the Murshidabad district of West Bengal. So again, this is a Brahmi inscription, and this resembles the northeastern Brahmi of 5th, 6th century CE. Another important connect between Southeast Asia and Eastern region or North India is the Nalanda copper plate of Pala King Devpal. There he grants villages to Nalanda monastery, and this was again here you find the patronage by the Shailendra king. We have seen the Shailendra king giving donation for Vihara at Nagapattinam. You find that Nalanda monastery also, there also the Southeast Asian ruler, he patronizes that. Then another we find there is Kalyani inscription. This is very late, although I have included it here, but this is 15th century inscription. But that is just for showing that there was continuity. I have included that. This is not ancient India, but I have included that just to show the continuity. So we find that as late as 15th century CE, there is Myanmar. We find the settlement of people from Bengal in the inscription mentioned about the settlement of people people from Bengal to Southeast Asia in regions like Myanmar and other places. Now next, Odisha and Southeast Asia. Yes, there are many inscription again datable to 12th century CE, and we find that the famous king of Java, called Java Bhav. Java Bhav is also said to be the descendant of the Kalinga family. Now, there is also a place called Holing in Java, till today, there is a place called Holing, and it is believed that the people who went from Kalinga, they settled there, and so the place is called Holing. So now you have, the scholars say that Holing is the Chinese equivalent of Kalinga. That's why it is. Then the inscription also is similar in character, and which was used in Odisha then. And moreover, in 5th century Java inscription, we also find the construction of 2 canals, and which are called Chandrabhaga and Gomati. Now, these are Gomati is a river. Lucknow is situated on the banks of Gomati, like the Chandrabhaga. So these are the names of Indian river which are mentioned in the inscription of Java. So in Java, we are finding we are finding the similarities with the evidence found in Odisha, and so therefore one can say that the contact between Odisha and Java, that was very much there since 5th century CE. Then Odisha and Southeast Asia also, when we talk about the contact between these 2 regions, we find there is a group of Brahmins in a district of Bali till today, and they are called Brahman B Kalinga. And this is Brahman B Kalinga. So it is believed that the group of Brahmanas from Odisha region, Kalinga region, they went and settled there, and that is why that is called so. The entire Buddhist village of Bodha Kalinga is located on a slope, and that is the highest mountain peak, and that exists till today. Apart from that, I have already talked about Nok pottery and local pottery, which shows evidence. So we will leave this. We'll go next. Andra and Southeast Asia. Andra and Southeast Asia, we have already seen the double-masted ship. I have mentioned it. I am again repeating it here. The Satavahana, the evidence showing the Satavahana similarities with Satavahana coin. Then similarly, we have sculptures also. Like we have sculpture datable to 2nd century CE, and that reflects the features of Amravati style. And Amravati style, we know that was patronized by the Satavahana kings, rulers. So Amravati, so that's another kind of evidence which shows the influence on sculptures of Southeast Asia, datable to 2nd century CE. Then inscription, if we talk about Andhra and Southeast Asia, then the very famous inscription, again, this is for 13th century, but that comes to the last of the ancient period, so I have covered this. This is a very famous inscription, that is Motupalli inscription of Kakatiya king Ganapati Deva. And everybody, any scholar who would discuss on trade, they will take into account this particular inscription of 13th century. And this inscription is very large, very big. It contains the whole body. It contains good content, which talks about various which provides various kind of information on society, economy, like Gotra or like community. So many. It's a long inscription. So there we find that there is mention of several towns, islands, foreign countries, the traders, even the terms like Chini for China. So all these traders. So this is Motupalli was very important, center, trade center. So there, these traders from different parts of the world, they arrive. And so that inscription during the Kakatiya ruler, that talks about the expansion of trade and network through Sri Lanka and Southeast Asia. So as I said, that inscription mentions about towns, island, everything, the regions, the cities, and even the names of the merchants. So that again is a very clear indication of the contact between the Andhra region and Southeast Asia. Yes, of course, with Sri Lanka and China as well. Then art forms, again, Gupta, if we go back to Gupta period, then so art influence right from Gupta period to Pal and Sen. Pal and Sen period, art of Bengal, that is very much seen, and then images of Burma and Java. Bronze technique again of Pala period is seen in the images found in Burma and Java. Now, structural. Now I come to structural. Yes, Borobudur. So remains, although they belong to late period, but the faith in Shiva and Vishnu is very much that can be established through the kind of inscription, as inscription in the honor of deities as well as the structures. So we find that the shrine devoted to the remains of Shiva temple, datable to 9th-10th century, that have been found at Kedah in Malaysia. And similarly, when we move further, then we find the Borobudur in Central Java, the most famous, that is built by Sailendra ruler in 8th century. Now Angkor Wat in Cambodia, again, that is 12th century CE. And we would see that, a lot of changes through the age, through the centuries or through the decades were happened in this temple. So always we will find, when we go today visit these places, we will find that the features of Hinduism as well as features of Buddhism, all this, so that reflects about the different stages when the Indian influence reached there. Uh, then yes, uh, from Borneo also we find, Hindu deities, the sculptures of Hindu deities like Shiva, Ganesha, Kartikeya, Vishnu, and even the representation of the images of Nandi, Linga, Yoni, they have been found, and they belong to 4th century CE. Then similarly, Indonesia, again the images of Buddha, which I have already discussed about the Amravati school, the Satavahana period, that is found. Then Takuapa, which we have seen in the context of inscription, we find that, inscription, apart from that, we find some figures of Brahmanical deities, and which is believed to be that of Vishnu, that is found from Takuapa. Yes, so this is all about evidence of different kinds, like they started from epigraph, then coins, then ceramics, then sculptural remains, then structural remains, and beads, etc., metal remains, etc. Now, the roots of communication. So briefly, as I said, that in course of my presentation, I was telling you about the different routes, how these regions were linked. So road networks were there. Road network means through northeastern part. I also mentioned that the earlier travelers like Faiyan and Wensang, they came from China. They came through land route, because land route and through not from sea route. But northeastern route was very dangerous. That was very hostile. We can say very perilous journey. They could not undertake, and therefore they traveled long way from the western part of India to northern part of India, and they reached here. But now, and while going, they took the ship from Tamilipta. So once they knew that, okay, how we can go there, the route is convenient. But before reaching here, they did not know. So what I mean to say, that northeastern route was not that favored because of the thick forest and because of the unknown tribes and or other reasons. But nevertheless, the Arakan, there was a land route, and that connected the Southeast Asia through the Arakan coast. That is one thing. But then we had maritime route, and that was very frequently used. And I have already said that after the discovery of monsoon by Hippalus in the 1st century CE, this route through the eastern coast of India, that became very much used. And we find many routes emerging from the port towns on the east coast of India, either from Tamil Nadu or Andra or Sri Lanka or Tamilipta, that is Bengal coast. So these were the major routes, and in internal routes, yes, Uttar Pradesh and Dakshin Pradesh, that's already continuing since long. And then there were various types of routes, which I'm not now, due to the paucity of time, that's not the main focus of my discussion today, the routes of communication. But I am just trying to show that both kind of routes, the land route through the Arakan coast or through the northeastern part, and the sea route, both played important role, but maritime route, they were more important. These are the routes I have shown through maps, like you will see that this is early maritime routes when I am talking about early period. So you can see that how through the east coast, you see the region, like through Sri Lanka, there are routes directly linking the east coast to Southeast Asia, to Thailand, Myanmar and all. And then there is also route, because when you go to Tamil Nadu, like today's Rameshwaram or that area, from there you can easily reach Sri Lanka, the Gulf of Mannar, and crossing that. So that route was also, and that linked to Southeast Asia. So there were, these maritime routes which helped us reach Southeast Asia. And then here you will see that when I'm talking up till 12th century CE, then you see the early historical routes and the later routes. So later you find when the Arabs, when I'm talking of 12th century, then you find that later when Muslim population settles at the coastal sites, and there is another whole story again. That's a different thing to talk about how trading pattern changes, and how even the cultural influence in Southeast Asia, that also, and later on when Dutch comes. So that's another thing which we are not going to discuss today. But you will find that what I am trying to show here, that in later part, the routes which are marked by dotted lines, you will see the routes also, connects. Early routes will connect the Roman Empire, but later on the Persian Gulf and other regions were also connected in later part. So that is. So what are the inferences? So today, from today's discussion, there are certain inferences that I would like to draw. That is, development of. So first thing is the Indian influence in Southeast Asia. So through the study of a scripts, coinage system, and religious practices like mention of yagnas or mention of certain Brahminical rituals in the inscription, it is not difficult to say that the Indian influence was very much felt by Southeast Asia since ancient time. Second, religion proved to be a very significant factor towards the interfaith, because when we talk of, in the beginning I said that trade should not be taken only as an economic activity, because it leads to exchange of ideas at various levels, and so there it comes, the religion also becomes a very important factor. And we have already seen that how, the knob vessels that reflect about the concept of mandala in Hindu or Buddhist concept. That is the Buddhist cosmology or Hindu cosmology is well reflected in artifact. Even we have seen that beads of Shaka Simha, how Buddha is depicted, how Buddhism is depicted in the artifact. So religion is very important. So trade should not be only looked at with economic perspective. So that is what we also infer from today's discussion, that we cannot disconnect the two things. So it is not only about society and economy, but it is also about culture. So when you talk about trade, when we talk about trade and exchange, okay, even economic exchange, then we also talk about exchange at various other levels. So unity of religious elements and economic activities is very instrumental for determining the trajectory of trade. Third important takeaway from today's discussion is that although scholars have been talking for quite some time, since R.S. Sharma gave the notion of feudalism, or he gave the notion of feudal age or decline of trade and urbanization, and that was the feudal model. The Marxist historian, they tried to explain the condition of India from 750 to 1200, which is termed as early medieval India, as a period of decline in trade, debasement of coinage, decline of town, regionalism, ruralization, all these things. So this discussion clearly, so as I said, that scholars have been refuting that. They present different opinions. Here in the context of Southeast Asia, and especially in South India, I would say that there was no decline of trade at all, as felt by many scholars. But this discussion also proved that, because there was rather continuity and survival. Because we have seen the evidence right from very beginning, very initial phase, third century, early centuries BC to late centuries, that there is continuity either in terms of a sculptural influence or bead making or inscription, epigraphic, characters being carried to Southeast Asia, and so on and so forth. So rather it was, so if one talks about the decline of Roman trade, Mediterranean trade in 4th, 5th century C, and then everything was over, and after the decline we landed up in the feudal age and land grant began and all that thing. That is one hypothesis which is presented by the Marxist model, D.D. Kosambi, R.S. Sharma. But then in that case, see, the decline of Mediterranean trade should not be taken as decline of trade as a whole. So decline of Roman trade did not mean the end of trade, but Southeast Asia trade was very much there, and that was rather, if not more flourishing, that was no less than Indo-Roman trade. So Southeast Asia trade was there, and so decline of trade, the hypothesis or the theory of decline of trade, that can very much be refuted in the light of this archaeological evidence. So what are the points to point? So this discussion again carries us further into the field of research. But for what are the issues which are raised? Like one thing, that trade is not merely economic activity, because as we have seen that so it is rather religio-economic. So it should be studied from religio-economic approach. Perhaps I am using the word for the first time, religio-economic. Actually, I used the word 3 years back, 4 years back, when I doubt I looked at all the articles and other things, but no social scientist in the world had used this term, religio-economic approach. But today, when I search on Google, I find some people, but I use then because yes, socio-economic was used, politico-economic was used, socio-religious was used, but religio-economic was never used. So nobody, maybe because the academia was much influenced by a particular kind of notion. So, but I think that religion and economic should not be separated. So, although Max Weber talks about all the things about Protestantism and rise of capitalism, But then we find that we have to apply that at a larger level, and we have to apply that. So when we study about economic activity, we should also discuss about the cultural influence or the cultural traits which are carried through, because they go hand in hand. Yes, they go hand in hand. Next important takeaway that is from today's discussion is that review of feudal model. So although there are different models now, segmentary model by Buttonstein, integrative model by, like V.D. Chattopadhyay, Herman Kulke, and so many models have been produced. The Marxist scholars, among themselves only, they differed in opinion. After R.S. Sharma and Didi Goswami, they presented the feudalism. They started the feudalism debate. The notion of feudalism. Then feudalism debate started, and they have come out with different notion. So the feudal model, the early model, which is called the feudal model, with regard to the decline of trade and de-urbanization, especially in the context of South India. So that does not stand true. So we have to, see that what is that, like, as I said, that there is continuity, and there is rather there is no decline at all. So feudal model doesn't explain the course of history in South India. So although R.S. Sharma may have talked about the land grants and other things in North India, Ganga Valley, now recently scholars are coming up with new studies, regional history is very much becoming that is being talked about. So now I think that model needs to be again relooked at. Then third thing is about this is also very like what you feel you would say, but I think we often use the term like cultural synthesis. We try to hide behind the term like assimilation and synthesis, this kind of things, like when we say that other culture came to India and that assimilated, we were very assimilative. And then we also use the word soft power. Also, this is beyond the scope of this paper. And we use the term, we were very soft, and we were very, accommodative. And when we went, so our culture goes somewhere, then we say that, okay, it is like cultural synthesis. But although I am not saying something like domination, or if I use the word, okay, there may be debate, or there may be, people may contest that, like R.C. Majumdar saying, colonization or something. So I am not using the word colonization, but certainly I am meaning that there was, we had an upper hand. There is no doubt about that. So either when I discussed about either the system of coinage beginning in Southeast Asia, or we talked about the political formation, like the name of kings or the suffix in the title of the king, the political idea, cultural idea. So all this, there is a heavy influence. So even though I am not using the word colonization, but I don't think that synthesis or assimilation or something that would be the right term to be used. So we have to think what to be used. So that is up to you. So this is the thing. Then these are the references, many, but here like, so this is, so I end here. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. If you want to get a sip of water, you can while we sort through questions. I have a question from Gautamji. Gautamji, would you like to unmute yourself and ask? And Dr. Verma, if you want to stop the slideshow sharing so we can see you fully, sir. Gautamji, go ahead, please.
Yeah, thank you. Firstly, sir, thank you for all the information you have shared, and you have brought it all together for us. I had a question on the availability of tin. Where did the Satavahanas source their tin from? Was it from the Roman side, or was it from Southeast Asia?
No, I told that Satavahanas, Satavahanas were famous for Amravati school of sculpture, as well as the ship motif of coins, which I was referring to. They have been found in good number in Andhra Pradesh, many regions of Andhra Pradesh. And they have been issued by, and that also, on the basis of this, their role in maritime trade is established, Satavahana role. So such type of coins have been found in Southeast Asia. So on the basis of this, we try to establish linkages between Southeast Asia and Satavahana culture. Now, Roman trade was, yes, Roman contact was very much there. That I have been saying throughout, that Roman trade was since beginning, when the west coast was very active. The site of Pattanam, which modern name of which is Muziris, but actual name is Pattanam, which was Musiri or Muziris. So Pattanam has been excavated. Now it is also, till now it is undergoing excavation. And that was very important site. So I also mentioned that Palghat Gap was the only way through which traders came. So Indo-Roman trade, the Indo-Roman contact with the Satavahanas or with the Southeast Asia was very much there. So there is no denial of that. And there but only after the discovery of monsoon, the contact with Southeast Asia becomes very frequent. And later on, with the decline of Roman trade and for supplying the spices, the merchants started looking to Southeast Asia, and then all these things started.
Thank you.
Okay, sir.
Next
Thank you.
question. Thank you, Gautamji. Next question. Okay, while people think about it, I have a question, sir. You mentioned the pottery from China didn't make it in for a while. Do you think because of like the yogic Ayurvedic thought process of kind of utilizing the natural soil to create our own vessels and things like that? Or do you really think it was kind of preventing outside influence, or a little bit of both?
Yes, you are right in many ways, because see, till late I have seen even I have heard stories from my grandparents that when they used to travel outside, and they did not used to take food in hotels, or they used to travel with their own pottery, and wherever they will go, they will So that was one thing was that either it was due to hygiene, or due to, as you said, the traditional beliefs in different kind of practices. So they used to even carry the grains also in
Yes.
Pottery and in that side. No, so this was so just imagine that when we are talking of say, early centuries BC and C, that would be very very much in practice. So this kind of, so one, you are very right that one was related to the concept of purity and pollution, that was there. So because Hindus believe that eating in potteries of they did not favor that things coming Chinese porcelain and all that, they did not like that. So one reason, and whereas Buddhism was very much popular in Sri Lanka, and Buddhists, as you know, they were contrary to this. They believe that in they believe in developing contact with China and other. So that was one reason why we find the arrival of pottery in Sri Lanka at an earlier date when compared to India. Although I said that India already was connected to China since 1st century CE, but pottery we are finding only in 9th century CE. And even though Kushanas has come from China and all that, in 1st century, Kushanas are very much there. UHE tribe has already arrived in India. But regarding porcelain, all we find we find other evidences from China through Silk Route trade was very much there from ancient times. But regarding the porcelain, it is very interesting. Now, that is what scholars also explain. Now, I don't know further stories, further research and all what that will say, but this is one very plausible explanation, what you're saying.
Right. Like, I guess this is the original make in India and consume in India concept, yes, dating back to centuries. Right. Thank you, sir. Next question. Somebody says, yes, very enlightening. Absolutely. Supremely enlightening. Thank you. Yes, sir. Sunilji, unmute and ask, please.
Yeah, my question to sir is, I've read a book recently by Venkatesh Rangan on Bharat's military campaigns outside India. So in that he says Ashoka's son went to what was in British times called Chinese Turkestan and is now called Xinjiang. So Indian influence was there apart from another province in South China where there was a Buddhist kingdom with Indian names as in Kashi, etc. Transposed there. And even Kashgar, he says, is in present day Xinjiang is just an aberration from Kashi. So what is your opinion about that? Because we know the Cholas definitely had influence all over Southeast Asia, and even in Japan we can find deities resembling iconography in India more than 1,000 years ago. So I just wanted your opinion. Thank you.
Yeah, we are in fact talking about a very wide period. It's a whole because the Indian history has been so, there has been a lot of transformation. We have been so dynamic. Our past has been so dynamic. So Cholas, when we come to Cholas, it is a matter of 10th, 11th century. You see, when Rajaraja and leads the military campaign. So there is no denial. Chola's naval power, he was known for his naval power, and there was expedition. And we have also seen during Pallava period itself that how the Southeast Asian ruler comes and constructs a Mahavihara at Nagapattinam. So that relationship is very much there, but that's of a very late age. But when you are talking of Ashoka, when we are going to 3rd century BC, it's thousands of years before. So Ashoka, yes, to propagate his Dhamma, he sends missionaries to different parts, like his son and daughter Ashoka, this Mahendra and Sangmitra to Sri Lanka, and like that he had sent missionaries to different parts, like even Southeast Asia, Swarnabhumi, it is named as Swarnabhumi. Then he's sent to even Afghanistan region, which is very much part of which is the peripheral part of the modern empire. But that time you find that China is not so prominent. In China, our presence in China only comes to light from 1st century AD onwards, or C onwards, 1st century C onward, when Buddhism, goes there. But because Buddhism, when Mahayana Buddhism, because all the travelers who come, the first travelers from China, he comes in 4th century C, Fahian. He's the first person, first traveler who comes to China, and he's a Mahayanist. He's a Mahayan Buddhist. So once Mahayanism reached China, these monks come to India to learn in the Indian, universities and Indian monasteries. So our contact with China, so both are different. So what you are talking about, Chola's naval power, that's very much there. There is no denial. By that time, by 10th, 11th century, we have grown. We had become much more advanced in the navigation technology, and that our contact with China and all. And not only that, even if you talk about Tamil influence, we have found inscription, which if you Google, you will find that article is there by K. Subramaniam, and that two merchant guilds in China, something Subramaniam's article. I can give you the reference. And then there is another inscription. I will show
Sir,
you.
sorry
Let
to
me.
interrupt. Yeah.
Yeah. Let me show you
Actually, Venkatesh Rangan is talking about the son of Ashoka called Konala. So, according to him, Sangamitra and all of them were missionaries, but Konala was more of a military guy. So, China nowadays has the habit of claiming everything, but the China of that time was limited to a very small uh, part. So, according to him, Kunala even helped the Chinese form their first kingdom, the classical period after that, Shi Huangdi, or the first emperor. So, according to him, Indians stabilized the place. That is his opinion, and this his perception is overland route, not the naval route.
No. That is, you are very right. You are saying about, see, that is what naval route of Chola, that is times apart. That is centuries apart. That is 10th century, and when you are talking of Ashoka, it is 3rd century BC. So there is no connection at all. You are right. But then Kunala, yes, Kunala was the successor of Ashoka, because after Ashoka, the empire was divided into two. His son Dasrath and Kunala. And Dasrath became the ruler of the eastern part, and Kunala became the ruler of the western part. And that also became the reason for decline of the modern empire. That's true. But so far as Kunala, this thing you are talking about a source, I have not gone through it. Maybe I will please give this thing to Anjali ji. I will take it from her and read it. But I am not sure about Kunala visiting China and all. I have not come. So I will see, then only I can say to you. Till now, from my studies, maybe something new has come. I have not seen. So you mean to say that Kunala had, gone, or Kunala had the links with China? That is what you are saying. But I have not come to that particular thing till now. So I have to recheck. I have to recheck that.
Thank you, sir. I
Thank you,
think
sir.
Then yes, I wanted to tell you regarding this the inscription. So one inscription I'll tell you. Let me show. One is Bisman Christie. Christie is yes. You see the Christie, the Christie Jan Bisman, 1998. The medieval Tamil language inscription in Southeast Asia and China. It's a Journal of Southeast Asian Studies. It was published in long 1998 itself. That's one thing. Another Subramaniam, I was saying, I have all the references of archaeological sources. Maybe it is here. Yes, Subramaniam TN, the Palwas of Kanchi in Southeast Asia. Then there is another. I'll check that. So this inscription, epigraphic inscription are also there in China. For the you are talking of Chola, no? It's very clear. By Chola's time, it's very clear. There is no doubt that we had our presence in all this region, China. But when you are talking of Kunala time, no, ancient time, there because first clear evidence that comes to light only from 1st century CE. I am saying that even Ashoka, while propagating his Dhamma, could not have so much influence in China. He could not. That is what from the sources it is seen that. But suppose some new thing has come about Kunala, I am not aware of it. I have to recheck.
Thanks, sir.
Priyanka ji, do you have a question?
Yeah, I have a question. It's a little different, I think, from the topic, or because it's an archaeological perspective. I just want to know, sir, I just want to know about during that time, were there any contribution of or role of women in the Southeast Asian trade? If they do have, so is there any archaeological evidence or inscription showcases that?
Very less, in fact, because you see, early Buddhism and all that, they were not the early traders. They were mainly Buddhist, and I have mentioned about Buddhist monk, but the great patron of trade, they were Buddhist. But Hinduism also reached. But women did not have a very important role. Why? Because you see, women, we all know that they were not leave about the sea journey. Even the long journey that was not undertaken by women. So I am not mentioning about women or confining women in India. They had great role. The gender studies is not one-sided that women did not have important role to play. But when we talk about maritime trade, there we do, because you see, generally when you have this concept of Tara, also the savioress, which comes in Vajrayana Buddhism later on for the traders, that is also very late, 8th century, 9th century onward. So I don't think that even the this donation also, the grant also made by women, they are very far and few. So in that context, I think there is no such important evidence which can, yes, suppose you want to talk about a sculptural representation, another thing, there also the representation is not that much as you find in the Indian context. So most of the representation is religious in nature. Either it is related to Shaivism, Vaishnavism, or Buddhism, as we have seen about cosmology. But the day-to-day life or the common life is not portrayed so much in the sources. So we cannot talk much about that unless we have sources. So we don't have much sources to discuss about that role of women.
Even you talked about different symbols and religious symbols. Also, the Indian god were depicted in their things, but not Indian goddess. Even Indian goddess.
Yes, goddess also.
Yeah.
We have found very less. Although we have found the yoni thing is there, the palace worship is very much there in the form of yoni, but that we found that at this no, the family of Shiva like Ganesha and Kartikeya or that kind. But then we find rare occurrences of female divinities. So that is one thing.
Thank you, sir.
You're right.
Last question. I know we've kept you for a very long time. Last question, if anyone has. Time is now. If not, I want to just mention, Dr. Verma, thank you, right? I mean, no one is raising their hand. Thank you. And maybe next time we can have you on. Of course, you're part of the Indology Collegium, but maybe we can have you on for to talk about maritime routes. That is fascinating. Maybe the shift from the other side of the world to this side of the world and how that happened, or what the narrative is, and how the narrative has changed over time, perhaps hijacked over time. Maybe we can talk about that next time.
Certainly we can plan and we can do that. And
Perfect.
it was very nice interacting with you. In fact, I am fortunate to have the company of you all, and it was very great. And thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. I know. Thank you for being part of this. Thank you to everyone for joining. And this is, of course, available on YouTube. So pass this on and follow us for, next exciting such topics. Thank you, sir. Namaste. Namaste, everyone. Yes.